Putin is intentionally trying to provoke NATO with his nuclear reorganization. There will be activity across the border in Belarus in the days leading up to the annual NATO summit in Vilnius later this month. Putin told Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko that Russia will begin deploying nuclear weapons to the country on the weekend of July 7 and 8. The two men met at Putin's summer residence in Sochi. Almost certainly not a coincidence, Putin decided to transfer nuclear weapons into Belarus just 3 days before the NATO summit in Lithuania begins. The Russian president is figuratively puffing out his chest as the alliance he frequently rages against prepares to sit down to discuss defense and deterrence. Putin assured Lukashenko that everything is going according to plan, with regards to the most delicate matters on which the two had agreed. You are aware that on July 7 and 8, we will have completed all necessary preparations for the relevant facilities and will have begun all necessary measures for the deployment of the relevant types of weapons on your territory. Everything is proceeding as expected, and the status quo has been maintained. Putin's words may mean nothing to those who don't normally keep up with his every move. His cartoonishly conspiratorial vagueness about sensitive issues, relevant facilities, and measures would be almost comical if we weren't talking about weapons of mass destruction. However, an announcement made by the Russian president 3 months ago explains why we do know that the relevant types of weapons Putin mentions are nuclear in nature. Putin announced his plan to give nuclear weapons to Belarus in a March TV interview on Russian television. Putin insisted that the treaty prohibiting the spread of nuclear weapons, NPT, would be upheld in the event of this deployment. He explained his choice by citing the United Kingdom's announcement that it would ship depleted uranium shells to Ukraine. Putin's classic victim complex came through when he claimed that the United States had already been doing the same thing for years with its allies, saying, "We, in principle, are doing everything that they have been doing for decades." To rephrase what he just said, they provoked it. Supposedly, Lukashenko had long asked for this, according to Putin. So, it's odd that Lukashenko won't be in charge of these weapons. Russia is not giving the Republic of Belarus any of its nuclear weapons, as confirmed last month by Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu. Control over them and the decision on the use remains with the Russian side. Due to this legal loophole, Putin is correct in asserting that transferring nuclear weapons to Belarus does not constitute a violation of the NPT. However, this nitpicking point does not offer much comfort. Lukashenko's country will host nuclear weapons, and he will have no say in whether or not they are used. Putin and Lukashenko claim that the Belarusian leader requested the transfer of these weapons into the country, but in reality, the Russian president almost certainly issued an order for Belarus to store them. The likelihood of Lukashenko having any involvement in this decision is low. With this, Lukashenko's transformation into Putin's puppet is complete, if there was any doubt before. Putin's statement comes several days after the beginning of the Ukrainian counteroffensive. Even he admitted it had started, though he fervently insisted the Ukrainian army had not yet achieved any victories. However, Putin's deployment of nuclear weapons into Belarus does not indicate that he will use them in Ukraine or anywhere else. It's clear that he intends to raise tensions with NATO with this hostile move, but the alliance's muted response so far suggests they're trying to avoid biting. But some analysts have wondered if it might serve another function as a useful bargaining chip when the time comes to talk with Ukraine and the West. However, the date the weapons are scheduled to be transferred is not inconsequential, whether the delay was accidental or deliberate. Just 3 days later, world leaders will convene at the NATO summit to discuss defense spending and how Ukraine can receive further support. The possibility of Ukraine joining the alliance itself is also likely to be discussed. Bringing nuclear weapons within striking distance of NATO borders on the eve of the summit sends a clear message. Putin will be hoping that this will serve as a sobering reminder to Biden, Sunak, and the other world leaders as they discuss the war. If he believes that rearranging his nuclear arsenal will prevent NATO from aiding Ukraine, he will be sorely disappointed. For the next 30 days, all the good stuff is free. If you sign up now, you'll have access to our site and app for free for an entire month. It's only £1 per week after the initial free trial. Cancellation is always an option.